Admiral Kethfer stood in front of the huge screen that showed the galaxy map. His forearms moved across the control panel as he looked at the planets his people had conquered. 47 worlds now belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. Each one had fallen in less than 3 days. His method was perfect, and he had never failed. The tall alien's skin was gray like stone, and his large black eyes reflected the light from the screen. Behind him, other Zephyrian officers worked at their stations. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. This was how his people liked it: calm, organized, and efficient. "Show me the next target," Kethver said to his aide commander. Rixtal. The screen changed to show a small yellow star with several planets around it. The third planet from the star glowed blue and green. It looked beautiful and peaceful. "This is Sol 3, Rixtal explained. "Our scouts have been watching it for 3 cycles. The planet has everything we need: water, oxygen, and good land for our colonies." Kethver studied the planet carefully. White clouds moved across blue oceans. Green and brown land masses were scattered around the surface. It looked like a perfect world for his people to live on. "What about the life forms?" he asked. "The planet has many different creatures. The main intelligent species calls itself humans. They are primitive, but interesting. They live in groups across the planet and seem to fight each other often." Kethver nodded. This was normal. Most species fought among themselves until the Zephyrians arrived to bring order. "How advanced are their weapons?" "Very basic. They use chemical explosives and simple projectile weapons. Their space travel is limited to their own planet's orbit. They pose no real threat to our forces." The Admiral smiled, showing his sharp teeth. This would be another easy conquest. The humans would surrender quickly when they saw the power of the Zephyrian fleet. Then his people could begin building new colonies on their beautiful world far away on Earth. Commander Jake Morrison sat in his small office at the Defense Force Base in Colorado. He was tired from working all night, but something on his computer screen made him sit up straight. Strange energy readings were appearing at the edge of the solar system. Jake had been watching space for enemy signals for 10 years. He knew what normal looked like, and this was not normal. The energy patterns were too organized, too purposeful. Something big was coming toward Earth. He picked up his phone and called his boss. "General Parker, we have a problem. You need to see this right away." General Lisa Parker was eating breakfast when her phone rang. She had been expecting this call for months. Ever since the deep space radio telescopes had picked up those weird signals, she knew something was heading there. "Wait. I'll be there in 20 minutes, she told Jake. Lisa was a tough woman who had worked her way up through the military. She had fought in 3 wars and never backed down from a fight. But as she drove to the base, she felt worried. The signals they had detected were unlike anything humans had ever seen. At the same time, Dr. Amy Collins was working in her laboratory at the University of California. She was studying the alien signals that the government had asked her to analyze. As Earth's best expert on possible alien life, she was trying to understand what the signals meant. The patterns were complex, but showed clear intelligence. Whatever was sending them was very smart and very organized. The signals seemed to be gathering information about Earth, its size, its atmosphere, and its defenses. Amy's computer beeped with a new message. The government wanted her at the emergency meeting in Colorado immediately. She grabbed her research files and headed for the airport. Back in space, the Zephyrian fleet moved closer to Earth. 12 massive warships traveled through the darkness between stars. Each ship was 3 miles long and carried enough weapons to destroy entire cities. The ships looked like huge black daggers cutting through space. Their surfaces absorbed light, making them nearly invisible except for the soft glow of their engines. Inside each ship, Thousands of Zephyrian soldiers prepared for battle. Kethver walked through the corridors of his flagship. His soldiers stood at attention as he passed. They wore dark armor and carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. These warriors had conquered 47 worlds without losing a single battle. How long until we reach the target? Kethver asked his navigation officer. 6 hours until we enter their solar system, Admiral. 12 hours until we reach optimal attack position. The Admiral nodded. In 12 hours, the conquest of Earth would begin. The humans would have no choice but to surrender or face complete destruction. Captain Ryan Davis was drinking coffee aboard the space station, Watchtower 7, when his sensors started screaming warnings. He nearly dropped his cup as he saw what was approaching Earth. The space station was humanity's farthest outpost, orbiting beyond Pluto. Ryan and his small crew watched for asteroids and space, junk that might threaten Earth. They had never expected to see alien warships. "Control, this is Watchtower 7, Ryan said into his radio. "We have multiple large objects approaching from deep space. They're not asteroids. Repeat, they are not natural objects." On Earth, Jake Morrison received Ryan's transmission. He looked at the data streaming in from the space station and felt his heart sink. The objects were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built, and they were moving in perfect formation toward Earth. "General Parker," Jake called across the room. "You need to see this now." Lisa looked at the screen and knew immediately what they were facing. After months of wondering and preparing, the aliens were finally here, and they were bringing enough firepower to end human civilization. "Get me the president," she ordered, "and contact every military commander on the planet. As of right now, Earth is under threat of invasion." The perfect target was about to become the perfect fight. The Zephyrian fleet reached Earth's outer atmosphere just as the sun was rising over North America. Admiral Kethver looked down at the blue planet below and felt satisfied. Soon it would belong to his empire. "Send the standard message," he told. His communications officer the message went out to every radio, television, and computer on Earth. The alien voice was cold and mechanical as it spoke in perfect English. "People of Sol 3, you are now subjects of the Zephyrian Empire. You have 24 hours to surrender completely. Lay down all weapons and prepare for new management. Resistance will result in total destruction." President Kate Williams was in the White House Situation Room when the message came through. She had been president for 3 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Around the table sat the most powerful military leaders in the world, all looking to her for guidance. "How long do we have?" she asked General Parker. 24 hours until their deadline. But our satellites show they could attack at any time. Their ships are positioned over every major city on Earth." Kate looked around the room at the grim faces. "Options? We can surrender and hope they treat us well," said Defense Secretary Robert Chun. "Or we can fight and probably lose everything." Dr. Amy Collins had just arrived from California. She was still catching her breath from the rushed flight, but she had important information to share. "I've been studying their communication patterns," she said, opening her laptop. "These aliens think very differently from us. They seem to operate as a group mind. They all think the same way and make decisions together." "What does that mean for us?" President Williams asked. "It means they've probably never fought an enemy that thinks individually. Every species they've conquered likely surrendered quickly because it was the logical thing to do. They don't understand people who make emotional or crazy decisions." General Parker leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we don't think logically?" Amy smiled for the first time all day. "I'm suggesting we think like humans. We're unpredictable, stubborn, and we don't always do what makes sense. That might be our only advantage." Meanwhile, Commander Jake Morrison was working on something he called Protocol Chaos. Instead of organizing Earth's defenses in the normal military way, he wanted every unit to act independently. The aliens will expect us to have a central command structure, he explained to his staff. They'll try to take out our leaders and disrupt our communications. But what if we don't have a central command? What if every soldier, every pilot, every ship captain makes their own decisions? His aide, Lieutenant Mark Johnson, looked confused. Sir, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. How can we coordinate attacks without coordination? Jake grinned. That's exactly the point. We can't coordinate, which means they can't predict what we'll do next. Across the globe, military leaders were having similar conversations. In Russia, General Boris Petrov was telling his commanders to fight like wolves, not sheep. In Japan, Admiral Kenji Tanaka was preparing his submarine fleet to attack without waiting for orders. In Britain, Air Marshal David Wright was planning to send every available aircraft against the aliens, regardless of the odds. But it wasn't just the military preparing to fight. In small towns and big cities around the world, ordinary people were getting ready to defend their homes. In Texas, Sheriff Tom Miller was organizing his deputies and local hunters. Boys, we've got some uninvited guests coming to dinner. I suggest we give them a warm welcome. In New York, Police Captain Mike Turner was meeting with other city officials. The aliens had chosen to position their largest ship directly over Manhattan, probably expecting to control the city easily. They picked the wrong city to mess with, Mike told his officers. New Yorkers don't surrender to anyone. Dr. Collins was studying more data when she made an important discovery. The alien ships seemed to communicate with each other constantly, sharing information and coordinating their actions perfectly. Their strength is also their weakness, she told President Williams over a secure phone line. Because they think as a group, they process information in predictable patterns. If we can overload them with too much chaotic information, we might be able to confuse their decision-making process. High above Earth, Admiral Kethvor was reviewing the tactical data his computers had gathered. The planet had approximately 200 countries with different governments and military forces. His computers calculated that eliminating the top 50 military targets would cause immediate surrender. The humans have primitive nuclear weapons, reported his tactical officer. Should we be concerned? Kethver looked at the data. Their weapons are crude and limited in number. Our shields can deflect anything they possess. Begin final preparations for invasion. The Zephyrian soldiers checked their weapons and armor. Each warrior was trained from birth to fight as part of the collective. They moved in perfect synchronization and followed orders without question. They had never lost a battle because they never made mistakes. As the 24-hour deadline approached, something strange began happening on Earth. Instead of panicking or surrendering, humans everywhere were preparing to fight. Factories that made cars started making weapons. Farmers loaded their hunting rifles. Even children were making plans to help however they could. Captain Ryan Davis watched from his space station as more alien ships arrived in the solar system. But he also saw something that made him proud. Human spacecraft, military vessels, research ships, even private space planes were launching from Earth and taking positions around the planet. They think we're going to roll over and give up, Ryan said to his crew. They have no idea what they're dealing with. The deadline passed with no surrender from Earth. Admiral Kethvar was surprised but not worried. No species had ever chosen destruction over surrender. The humans were just being stubborn. Begin the invasion, he ordered. But as the first Zephyrian ships moved toward Earth's surface, something unexpected happened. Instead of the organized military response they expected, the aliens detected thousands of small, scattered groups, preparing to fight. There was no central command to destroy, no main army to defeat. just millions of humans ready to cause trouble. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the enemy appears to be ... everywhere. For the first time in his long military career, Kethver felt uncertain. His invasion plan was perfect for fighting organized enemies. But the humans weren't organizing. They were just getting mad. And an angry human, as the Zephyrians were about to learn, was a very dangerous thing. The invasion began at dawn. Hundreds of small Zephyrian ships dropped from the large warships like deadly raindrops. They headed for major cities around the world: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and dozens of others. Admiral Kethver watched from his command ship, confident that the battle would be over by sunset. The first landing pods hit the ground in Central Park, New York. Zephyrian soldiers emerged from their ships, expecting to face organized military resistance. Instead, they found Police Captain Mike Turner and 50 New York cops waiting for them with shotguns and attitude. "Welcome to New York," Mike shouted as he fired his first shot. "Hope you brought your insurance." The Zephyrian soldiers activated their energy shields, designed to stop laser weapons and particle beams. But Mike's shotgun pellets were just pieces of metal moving really fast. The shields did nothing to stop them. The first alien warrior fell, and his companions stood frozen for a moment. This wasn't in their battle plans. Their computers had calculated that primitive kinetic weapons would be ineffective. But the alien on the ground wasn't moving, and his armor had holes in it. "Keep shooting," Mike yelled to his officers. "These fancy shields don't stop good old-fashioned bullets." Similar scenes were playing out across the globe. In London, a group of football hooligans had armed themselves with hunting rifles, were treating the invasion like the world's most important game. In Tokyo, an elderly man with a samurai sword was somehow managing to confuse an entire squad of alien soldiers. Susan Clark was leading the strangest Air Force squadron in history. Her pilots included Bob Martinez, a crop duster from Kansas, Jenny Walsh, a stunt pilot from California, and Frank Cooper, a retired airline captain who had volunteered for one last flight. Remember, Susan told her pilots over the radio, "We're not trying to win an air show. We're trying to be as unpredictable as possible. Fly like your grandmother is giving you directions." Bob laughed as he pulled his small crop-dusting plane into a spiral that would have made a physics teacher cry. "Copy that, Major. Grandma always did get lost going to the grocery store." The Zephyrian fighter pilots had trained for thousands of hours against computer simulations of enemy aircraft. They knew how to counter every possible maneuver and attack pattern. But they had never faced a pilot who suddenly decided to fly upside down for no tactical reason, or one who used a crop-dusting plane to ram a billion-dollar alien fighter. Frank Cooper's old passenger jet wasn't built for combat, but it was big and heavy. When he crashed it into the side of a Zephyrian landing ship, the explosion could be seen from space. "That's for ruining my retirement," Frank said over the radio just before impact. Dr. Amy Collins was working frantically in her temporary lab beneath the Pentagon. She had made an important discovery about the way Zephyrian soldiers fought. When they encountered something unexpected, they had to stop and ask their commanders what to do. "They can't think for themselves," she explained to General Parker over the phone. "Every time we do something they don't expect, they freeze up while their computers try to figure out the best response." "How long does that take?" Parker asked. "About 3 seconds. Doesn't sound like much, but in a firefight, 3 seconds is forever." Commander Jake Morrison was coordinating the chaos from his command center. He had operators talking to resistance groups around the world, but he wasn't giving orders. Instead, he was just sharing information and letting each group decide what to do with it. "Denver reports that aliens don't like loud noises," he announced. Someone tried playing death metal at full volume, and the whole squad retreated. In Australia, A group of miners had discovered that their industrial equipment could damage alien vehicles. Turns out a mining laser works just as well on spaceships, reported team leader Steve Hamilton. The reports kept coming in, each one more bizarre than the last. In Brazil, a soccer riot had somehow captured 3 alien soldiers. In Scotland, a bagpipe player had driven off an entire platoon. In India, a group of street vendors had turned their food carts into mobile weapons platforms. Admiral Cathfar stared at the reports flooding in from the surface. His tactical computers were overheating, trying to process all the contradictory information. The humans weren't fighting like any species in the Zephyrian database. Status report, he demanded, from his ground commanders. Sir, the humans are. They're not following any logical battle doctrine. Unit 7 reports being attacked by flying machines that seem to be operated by insane pilots. Unit 12 was overwhelmed by a crowd of humans wielding primitive projectile weapons. Unit 23 is requesting backup because they're being attacked by some kind of musical weapon. Kethver's 4 arms moved frantically over his control panel. Musical weapon? What does that mean? Unknown, sir. The soldier's report just says horrible screeching noise that causes pain before communication was lost. On the surface, Scottish piper Donald MacLeod was playing his bagpipes as loudly as possible, while local hunters picked off confused alien soldiers. The Zephyrians had sensitive hearing, and the pipes were causing them actual physical pain. Play it louder, Donald, shouted local police chief Margaret Burns as she reloaded her rifle. I think they're getting used to it. The strangest battle was happening in a small Kansas town where farmer Bill Turner had decided to treat the aliens like particularly large pests. He was chasing a squad of Zephyrian soldiers around his cornfield with a combine harvester, while his wife Mary provided covering fire from their porch. Bill, you missed one behind the barn, Mary called out. I see him, honey. Just need to get this darn machine turned around. The Zephyrian soldiers had never encountered agricultural equipment before. Their computers couldn't classify the combine harvester as a weapon, so they didn't know how to defend against it. Dr. Collins made another breakthrough when she analyzed the communication patterns between alien ships. They're getting overwhelmed, she told the emergency council. Their hive mind works fine when dealing with predictable problems, but we're giving them too many random variables to process. What does that mean in practical terms? Asked President Williams. It means we're confusing them to death. Every time someone does something completely crazy, their entire network has to stop and try to understand it. We're basically causing them to have mental traffic jams. As the day went on, the Zephyrian invasion began to slow down. Soldiers who should have been advancing were stopping to request new orders. Ships that should have been attacking were circling overhead while their computers tried to analyze the chaotic battle below. Commander Morrison received a report that made him smile. A group of college students in Ohio just captured an alien landing ship using nothing but ropes, beer, and what they describe as really bad planning that somehow worked. Major Clark landed her battered fighter plane and immediately ran to find another aircraft. Her squadron had lost half its planes, but they had taken down twice as many alien fighters. How are we doing this? Asked Bob Martinez, whose crop duster was somehow still flying despite having more holes than metal. I think, Susan replied, we're succeeding because we're failing so creatively that the aliens can't figure out what we're trying to do. As night fell on the first day of invasion, Admiral Cathfar faced something he had never experienced before. Doubt. His perfect invasion plan was falling apart, not because the humans were stronger, but because they were completely, utterly, and beautifully insane. And tomorrow, they would probably be even crazier. Admiral Cathfar had not slept in 36 hours. The invasion that should have ended in 3 days was now in its second week, and his forces were losing ground. He stood before the tactical display, watching red warning symbols appear across the planet's surface. "Explain this to me again," he said to his chief tactical officer. "Sir, our ground forces control less than 20% of their original objectives. The humans have adapted. They're using tactics that don't exist in any military database." Kethver's large black eyes reflected the glow of the display. 47 previous conquests had taught him that all intelligent species fought the same way, with logic, organization, and predictable strategies. But these humans seemed to fight with pure chaos. On Earth, Sergeant Alex Johnson was leading the most unlikely military unit in history. His team included Eddie Martinez, a car mechanic from Detroit, Sarah Williams, a high school math teacher from Ohio, and Tim Brown, a college student who had volunteered because he thought fighting aliens would be totally awesome. "Okay, people," Alex said as they looked up at the massive Zephyrian mothership hovering over Chicago. "We're going to board that thing and mess with their computers." Eddie wiped grease from his hands. "Sarge, I fix cars. I don't know anything about alien computers." "That's perfect," Alex replied. "They won't expect someone who doesn't know what they're doing." Sarah shook her head. "This is the stupidest plan I've ever heard. I love it." The team had stolen a small Zephyrian transport ship that had crashed in a suburban parking lot. Eddie had managed to get it flying again using parts from a school bus and what he called aggressive mechanical persuasion. Dr. Amy Collins was working around the clock in her lab, trying to understand how the alien technology worked. She had made a remarkable discovery. The Zephyrian ships were designed to fight against logical opponents. Their defensive systems could counter any organized attack, but they had no protection against random interference. "It's like they built a wall to stop armies," she explained to General Parker, "but they forgot that someone might just walk around." "How do we use this?" Parker asked. "We stop thinking like soldiers and start thinking like humans. The more random and chaotic our actions, the more confused their computers become." Captain Ryan Davis was still aboard Watchtower 7, but now his space station had become an unlikely command center. Using communication equipment built for monitoring asteroids, he was coordinating attacks with resistance groups across the solar system. "Attention all units," he broadcast. "Remember that we're not trying to win through superior firepower. We're trying to win by being so weird that the aliens give up." His crew had been joined by volunteers from around the solar system. There was Janet Cooper, a mining engineer from the asteroid belt; Carlos Vega, a cargo pilot who had been hauling supplies to Mars; and Lisa Park, a tourist who had been visiting the moon when the invasion started. "I was supposed to be home 3 days ago," Lisa complained as she loaded ammunition into a makeshift weapon. "My boss is going to kill me." "Only if the aliens don't get us first," Carlos replied cheerfully. The breakthrough came when Alex Johnson's team managed to infiltrate the Zephyrian mothership. They didn't have a complex plan or advanced equipment. They just walked through a cargo bay that the aliens had left unguarded because their computers calculated that no enemy would be stupid enough to attack such a heavily defended ship. "We're in," Alex whispered into his radio. "The inside of this thing looks like a science museum designed by robots." Sarah was amazed by the alien technology around them. "Everything is so organized and efficient. No wonder they can't understand." U.S. They found the main computer core, a massive crystal structure that pulsed with blue light. Tim, the college student, walked up to it and pulled out his laptop. "What are you doing?" Eddie asked. "I'm going to try to connect to their network. I downloaded every virus, spam email, and internet meme I could find. If this doesn't confuse their computers, nothing will." While Tim worked, the rest of the team explored the ship. They discovered that the Zephyrian crew worked in perfect harmony, each alien knowing exactly what the others were doing. It was efficient but predictable. "No wonder they can't handle us," Alex said. "They've never fought anyone who makes decisions individually." On the surface, the human resistance was growing stronger every day. People were sharing information through social media, creating weapons from household items, and coordinating attacks using video game chat systems. The aliens couldn't intercept these communications because they were too chaotic and random. Police Captain Mike Turner had become a folk hero in New York. His simple strategy of shoot first, ask questions, later had been copied by resistance groups around the world. He was now leading a force of cops, firefighters, taxi drivers, and street vendors against the alien forces in Manhattan. "The key," he told a reporter while reloading his shotgun, "is to not overthink it. See alien, shoot alien. It's not rocket science." Major Susan Clark had been promoted to colonel after her aerial tactics proved successful against Zephyrian fighters. Her new squadron included pilots from around the world, flying everything from military jets to crop dusters to restored World War II aircraft. "The aliens keep trying to predict our attack patterns," she explained to her pilots. "So our strategy is to not have any patterns. Bob, I want you to fly in circles for no reason. Jenny, try to spell your name with contrails. Frank, just do whatever feels right." The retired airline pilot Frank had survived his crash landing and was now flying a captured alien fighter. "Copy that, Colonel. I've always wanted to do a barrel roll in one of these things." Dr. Collins made another important discovery when she analyzed the data from Tim's computer virus attack. The alien network was becoming unstable as it tried to process millions of random internet files. "They're experiencing what we might call a digital nervous breakdown," she reported to the emergency council. "Their hive mind is designed to process logical information quickly. But we're feeding it cat videos, recipe websites, and social media posts. It can't figure out what any of it means." President Williams smiled for the first time since the invasion began. "So we're winning by being ourselves?" "Exactly. Every time someone posts a funny picture or sends a random email, it adds to the chaos in their system. We're literally overwhelming them with humanity." Admiral Kethfer was experiencing something no Zephyrian had ever felt: confusion. His perfect tactical computers were producing contradictory reports. His soldiers were requesting guidance for situations that didn't exist in any manual. His ships were being attacked by enemies who seemed to have no strategy at all. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we're receiving thousands of data transmissions from the planet's surface. They appear to be jokes, music files, and pictures of small, furry animals." "Block them," Kethfer ordered. "We can't, sir. The humans have somehow connected their primitive computers to our network. Our systems are trying to analyze and categorize everything they're sending, but there's no logic to any of it." The Admiral looked at his tactical display and saw something that chilled him to his core. For the first time in Zephyrian history, an invasion was failing. Not because the enemy was stronger, but because they were incomprehensible. High above Earth, Captain Davis detected something amazing on his sensors. The Zephyrian mothership was beginning to drift off course. Its guidance systems were malfunctioning as they tried to process the chaotic data flowing through their network. "All units, this is Watchtower 7, he broadcast. "The big fish is starting to wobble. I think we're getting to them." On the surface, millions of humans continued their chaotic resistance. They fought with everything from hunting rifles to kitchen knives to strongly worded letters. They had no central command, no master plan, and no idea what they were doing. And that, as the Zephyrians were learning, made them absolutely terrifying opponents. The final battle began when Admiral Kethvar realized his invasion force was falling apart. 3 weeks of fighting the humans had left his fleet damaged, his soldiers confused, and his computers on the verge of complete breakdown. He made a decision that went against everything the Zephyrian Empire stood for. He would risk everything in one final assault. "All ships, prepare for orbital bombardment," he ordered. "We will destroy their major cities from space. No more ground operations. No more attempts to capture territory. We will simply eliminate them." But as his ships moved into position, something unexpected happened. The humans launched their own final attack. Commander Jake Morrison coordinated the assault from his underground bunker. He wasn't giving specific orders to anyone. Instead, he was simply telling every human fighter on Earth the same thing: go cause trouble. In space, Captain Ryan Davis led the most unlikely fleet in history toward the alien mothership. His force included military vessels, civilian spacecraft, mining ships, tourist shuttles, and even a few experimental aircraft that probably shouldn't have been able to fly at all. "Remember, people," Ryan broadcast to his fleet, "we're not trying to win through tactics or strategy. We're trying to win by being so completely crazy that they can't figure out how to stop us." The space battle was unlike anything ever seen. Human ships attacked in random directions, with no formation or coordination. Some pilots tried to ram alien vessels. Others fired whatever weapons they had while spinning in circles. A few simply flew straight at the enemy while playing loud music over their communication systems. Major Susan Clark, now leading the atmospheric defense forces, watched the space battle from her fighter plane. "All aircraft, this is your cue," she announced. "Time to show these aliens what happens when you mess with Earth." Her pilots responded with a chorus of cheers, battle cries, and one person singing what sounded like a children's song. They launched toward the Zephyrian ships with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for sports events. On the ground, millions of humans were doing what they did best: causing chaos. Police Captain Mike Turner led a charge through Central Park, firing his shotgun at any alien he could see. His force included cops, firefighters, hot dog vendors, and tourists who had decided to join the fight instead of running away. For New York, Mike shouted as he dove behind a park bench and reloaded. Meanwhile, Sergeant Alex Johnson and his unlikely team were still inside the alien mothership. College student Tim Brown had successfully connected his laptop to the alien computer system and was uploading everything he could find on the internet. "I've got every social media post from the last year, all the movie databases, complete recipe collections, and about 50,000 cat videos," Tim reported. "Their computer is trying to analyze it all and figure out what it means." Dr. Amy Collins, monitoring the upload from Earth, watched as the alien network began to overload. "The Zephyrian hive mind is experiencing what we might call an information overload," she explained to President Williams. "They're trying to understand human culture through our internet, and that's proving impossible." Eddie Martinez, the mechanic, was exploring the ship's engine room. "Hey guys," he called over the radio. "I found their power source. It looks important. Should I hit it with this wrench?" "Do it," Alex replied. "When in doubt, apply mechanical force." Eddie's aggressive mechanical persuasion worked better than anyone expected. The alien power systems weren't designed to handle random physical impacts from primitive tools. Warning lights began flashing throughout the ship. Admiral Kethvar felt his flagship shudder as systems began failing. "Report," he demanded. "Sir, our computer network is experiencing massive failures. Our power systems are operating at 60%, and our tactical computers are, I'm not sure how to describe this. They appear to be trying to understand something called pizza recipes, and they can't stop." The Admiral looked at his screens in disbelief. His perfect invasion force was being destroyed by recipes and cat videos. On Earth's surface, the human resistance had grown into something that couldn't be called an army because armies were organized. This was more like a planet-wide riot with a common purpose. People were fighting with hunting rifles, kitchen knives, baseball bats, and in one memorable case, a group of professional wrestlers who had decided to tackle alien soldiers. The turning point came when Dr. Collins realized that the aliens' greatest strength, their ability to think as one unified mind, had become their greatest weakness. "They can't handle individual thinking," she announced to the world over every available communication channel. "Every time one of us does something unpredictable, their entire network has to stop and try to understand it. So be unpredictable." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Humans everywhere began doing the most random things they could think of. In London, a group of office workers started a conga line during a firefight. In Tokyo, someone began teaching aliens how to fold origami. In Brazil, a samba band played music so loud and confusing that an entire alien battalion retreated. Colonel Susan Clark watched from her fighter as the alien mothership began to drift. Its navigation systems were failing as the computer network collapsed under the weight of trying to understand human randomness. "All aircraft, the big ship is in trouble," she announced. "Let's help it along." What followed could only be described as organized mayhem. Human aircraft from around the world converged on the mothership, attacking from every possible angle with every possible weapon. Some used missiles, others used bullets, and one pilot dropped a load of concrete from a construction helicopter. Inside the mothership, Tin's computer virus had achieved something remarkable. The alien computers were no longer trying to fight the humans. Instead, they were trying to understand why humans posted pictures of their food online and why anyone would voluntarily watch videos of people falling down. Their whole system is, "Stop trying to analyze human behavior," Tim reported. "I think I broke their artificial intelligence by showing it social media." Admiral Kethfor made the hardest decision of his military career. "All ships, prepare for emergency withdrawal. We are abandoning this invasion." His officers stared at him in shock. "Sir, the Empire has never retreated from any conquest." "The Empire has never fought anyone like this," Kethfor replied. "These humans don't fight like any rational species. They fight like ... like they're insane." The Zephyrian fleet began pulling back from Earth, their ships damaged and their computers still trying to process terabytes of random human data. As they retreated, millions of humans cheered from the surface. President Williams addressed the world from the White House. "Today, humanity has proven that our greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to be completely, wonderfully, and effectively human." Captain Ryan Davis watched from his space station as the alien fleet disappeared into deep space. "Looks like they've had enough of us," he reported to Earth. "Can't say I blame them." Dr. Collins was already analyzing the alien technology left behind. The captured ships would advance human space travel by centuries. But more importantly, humanity had learned something valuable about themselves. "We won because we're unpredictable," she wrote in her final report. While other species develop logical, organized responses to threats, humans respond with creativity, stubbornness, and random bursts of brilliance. In a universe full of logical minds, being wonderfully illogical might be our greatest superpower. 6 months later, Earth had established its first defensive space fleet using captured alien technology. The ships were crewed by the same unlikely heroes who had fought in the invasion: cops, farmers, mechanics, teachers, and college students who had proven that the best qualification for space combat was the willingness to try something completely crazy. Admiral Kethfor, now in exile from the Zephyrian Empire, spent his time trying to write a report explaining how his perfect invasion had failed. He was still trying to understand how a species that fought with such chaos and randomness could be so effective. Meanwhile, Earth had sent a message to the galaxy. We are humanity. We are unpredictable, stubborn, and slightly insane. We do not recommend invasion. You have been warned. The message was received by dozens of alien civilizations, all of whom decided that perhaps there were easier planets to conquer. And on Earth, life returned to normal, except that normal now included regular space patrols, alien technology in everyday use, and the knowledge that when the universe tried to push humanity around, humanity pushed back with everything from nuclear weapons. To bagpipe music. It was, everyone agreed, the most human way possible to win a war.